Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, you have judged correctly. I do have the chess. All right, man. So as you guys know, we got the Champions Chess Tour final going on right now. And so I have the match between Wesley So and Alireza Firouzja. And this is the third game that they played in this match. So this is the tie-break game. So Wesley So must win this game or Alireza Firouzja must draw this game. To see who actually takes the match. So, of course, all my people in the Philippines, I will say Maraming Salamat. Anybody who is coming from France, I will say Merci beaucoup. And if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, son. So we got E4, best by test. We got E5, all classical so far. Knight to F3, all very common stuff. Attacking this pawn for black. And then we actually do see the move of knight to F6. And we're basically just saying as black, I'm not just going to just simply defend my pawn. I'm going to counterattack your pawn. So it's a little bit more of an aggressive defense. We do see knight taking E5. We got the move D6, knocking that knight back. Knight goes back to F3. And then we do see knight taking E4. And black has restored material equality. And we see a move, knight to C3, which might look kind of strange. Because you're like, man, am I just inviting the doubling of my pawns? That is actually what we see in the game. Knight takes C3, pawn takes C3. So like I said, it might seem a little bit strange because you're like, why would I just, choose to just do this? Well, the thing that you have to think about. One of the things is, as Ruy Lopez that we've seen from the black side, we have seen that this endgame is not very bad for the side that has these double pawns right here. Right here. And also, something you have to consider, too, is the fact that this bishop is completely open. This bishop is completely open, and so is this queen. So even though, yes, you have doubled your pawns, you have gotten quite a bit of compensation for that. So that is why we see basically everything being even. We see bishop to E7 by black. We got bishop to E3 by white. We got castles by black. We got queen to D2. And I mean, we're pretty obvious with our intentions. If we are white, we're going to go into an opposite side castling type of a game, which, as you guys know, is lending itself to a lot of pawn attacks and stuff like that. So we do see bishop to F5. This is actually somewhat of a rarer move, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if white is going to be castling queenside, why not, put the bishop on a square that's going to attack that area. So we do see knight to D4, and this does back the bishop up to D7. We see long castles. We got the move knight to C6. And then we actually see the novelty of the game, which is kind of crazy. Because, like I just got done saying, that both white and black are going to start attacking on opposite sides of the board. We got the move H4. All pawn pushes, against your opponent's king are not created equal. So you have to kind of calculate in the position and see kind of like how you want to go about attacking your opponent. We do see knight to E5. We're just trying to get, one of our pieces more over into the king side, just for some protection. We do see the move H5 because Wesley So is like, I present to you my pawn. He's just like going on this all-out attack, bro. Like, man, can you let me breathe? But we do see the move H6, and that really just kind of shuts everything down for the moment. So white definitely has to come up with something else that it wants to try to do. We'll get to that in a minute, but we do see king to B1. It's never a bad idea to get your king into safety. Also, one little detail. If the king is on C1 and the queen is on D2, sometimes you can be subject to a pin along this diagonal. So that's why king to B1 is usually a good move when you have these queenside castlings. We do see rook to E8. We see bishop to F4. We got bishop down to F6, just lending a little bit of support to this knight on E5. We got bishop to E2. Now, for white, G4 and then G5 would actually be a dream. If we can move a rook over here and then we can prepare maybe a little bit further or just more immediately push the move G4 and then G5, you see that we have a lot of pressure on this point, especially with a rook. We are definitely trying to get this G file open, to go on the attack that I was talking about before. We do see the move A6, and this actually is a very important move because of what we see coming up in the game. We actually see the move G4, and we do see the move C5 in the game. And like I said, the A6 move was actually very important because you did not want a knight to jump into B5 and put a lot of pressure on this pawn. And you don't want to take it because this, after this take here and this take here, it would be hitting this rook over here, bam. So that is why you did not want all of that occurring. So A6 just cuts all that completely out. But going back to the position, like I said, if you did see C5, you would be looking at knight to B5. We do see A6. G4, and this is another position that I actually wanted to talk about. It might kind of seem like white is like, bro, hey, aren't you just giving away a pawn on G4? Well, the thing, like I said, is as white, you absolutely do want an open G file. So if you did see something like knight taking G4, bishop taking G4, bishop taking G4, you would be seeing rook D to G1. And yes, you have given a pawn, but like I said, you have a lot of pressure on this king side, and you do have an half open G file. And because of the bishop on F6, you actually don't have the ability to basically, you know, put this bishop completely in this square because, you know, this bishop is in the way. So, you know, this is definitely something that would be on the menu for white, but we don't see that. Like I said, we did see the A6, and then we do see the C5, and then we do see knight going over to F5, attacking this D6 pawn in a different way. And this knight gotta go. Like, this knight, you're not gonna live there, bro. Like, so we do see bishop taking F5, and then pawn taking F5. And this is the open G file that you did want to get. So you definitely have gotten quite a bit if you are white. We do see king going over to H7. We see queen taking D6. And this actually does just give away a pawn. Queen takes D6, rook takes D6, and then we do see rook A to D8. And yes, you are up a pawn if you are white. But what you have to be paying attention to is you do have quite a bit of weaknesses in your position. Like, it's not the end of the world, but you do have these double pawns, and you actually now have these double pawns, and then an isolated pawn. So when you are going into thinking about trades, you do have to be considering everything in your position and thinking, you know, not just that you're up material, but, you know, what does my benefit in material kind of look like going into an endgame? So that's why it's important to know endgames. Rook takes D8, bishop goes back and takes D8. We do see rook over to D1, taking advantage of that fully open D file. We do see the move bishop to G5, and Firouzja is like, hey man, I offer you a trade of bishops, man. So, you know, what do you do in this position? So, this is a point in the game that if you do want to pause the video and try to guess what move Wesley So plays here, go ahead and do so. Okay, so like I was saying before, you know, you have to be very much thinking of, you know, when you are trading, what is that possibly going to be looking like? Okay, so trading rooks wasn't that bad of an issue. It was actually pretty favorable for white. But trading in this position actually is not very good. So what we actually see in the position, so the move that I was looking for is actually bishop back to G3. Avoiding of that trade at all cost. If you go back, just to explain to you, like, why is a trade seem like it's so bad? Well, one of the things you have to be considering is the fact that black has a knight and a bishop, and you have your double bishops. So generally, you do want to kind of keep double bishops on the board. It's not an always thing, but if you did go into a trade here, it is something very, very specific to what position you end up having after you go into this trade that is the issue. Bishop would be taking on G5, UT pawn taking on G5. And now, since black has successfully gotten the pair of bishops off the board, what they are going to be doing is they are going to be playing against your light square bishop on E2. And this is what it looks like. You would probably see king stepping over to C1, trying to get back into the game. And you would see the move F6. And the problem that you have, if you are white, yes, you do have an extra pawn. But the problem that you have is that your light square bishop really wasn't as good as the dark square bishop. Number one, you do have a centrally placed knight in the middle of the board that is on a dark square that cannot be influenced by this light square bishop. Also, what you have to think about is the fact that black is going to work to construct a dark square complex to where basically your pieces are never going to really be able to attack their pawns on dark squares. Also, another very important thing is this knight being on this specific square is preventing a rook from penetrating into the position if you are white. So based on all of those different things, it is not favorable for this specific situation to trade bishops. So that is why you see Wesley So go into these trades. He's calculating that and he's saying, man, no, I can't go into this trade at all, man, because I'm going to be left with a much poorer bishop than if I kept this dark square bishop on. So let's look and see what that looks like. So we do see the move bishop to G3. We got bishop going back to F6. So, you know, black has not gotten their favorable trade in there. We do see the move A4. We got king going back to G8. We see rook up to D5. And we also, with reserving the bishop on the board, we do have the ability at some point maybe to take this knight off the board. And then we do get that rook to d7 in the position like we were talking about just a second ago. We got knight back to c6, and it's trying to be sneaky. I mean, you know, we're trying to get this bishop off the board for free, because obviously if you can get the bishop for free, like you're gonna be good. Like you're gonna be on vacation if you Alireza Firouzja. So we do protect it. I mean, Wesley So sees it. Bishop to f3. We got the pawn moving to b6. We see rook up to d6, and now you're in a little bit of a pickle because you do have this knight double hit, but then past that knight, you do have this pawn hit. So it's not desirable. We do see knight back to e7, and then we do see rook taking b6. And it is in this position that Alireza Firouzja resigns the game. So, like I said, I mean, this is a situation where, I mean, I can understand how Firouzja can resign this position simply because you're basically looking at it like, man, I mean, Wesley So is one of the best players in the world. I'm down material. I can feel that my position is kind of bad. I mean, you know, so I just don't want to go any further. I get it. But, I mean, maybe you kind of play for another couple of moves. I mean, I've seen games like this that are +2, +3 that somehow magically turn around, man. So it's like you never really kind of know, man. So why not play another couple of moves, man? You just need a draw. But for those of you that might be wondering, like, how this is so bad, well, number one, you have dropped another pawn, so you are down 2 entire pawns in this position. Also, there really isn't a good way for you to prevent another pawn from dropping off the board. Now, you can always play knight takes f5. That's fine, you know, attacking the bishop. But, I mean, the bishop is just going to move somewhere and make sure that you cannot attack. And then after you move, maybe, let's say, a5, you're going to be looking at rook to b5. And the main problem that you have is the fact that this rook cannot actually come into this a8 square and protect this pawn. And you are hitting these double pawns right here. You're probably going to have to go back bishop to, you know, d8 to protect that a pawn. But this does just drop this pawn right here. And you're constantly being behind pawns. So this is really not a position that you know, too much want to be in. Plus, I mean, white has the ability to go here, so this check is going to be completely worthless. So, I mean, this is just very, very bad for black to have to try to play. So, that is why we see him resign the game. So, I appreciate everybody very much for coming by. Maraming salamat na king makaibigan. Posa na nuno ringa king ma video. Ingat lagi to you. Mabuting pagbati. Anybody who is coming up from France, merci beaucoup, mes amis. Bienvenue. I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by, and I'm going to see you guys next time.